really, let's see here. Let me just pull it up again because I had it pulled up and it disappeared. Okay. We are here for vibrant discussions on self-awareness, self-acceptance, self-care, and all those crucial aspects
Mhm.
of self-love. And that's what we focus on in this community. And I am so excited to have another expert with me. This is Paula Collins, and we are going to talk mostly, I would say, about self-acceptance.
Mhm.
And this is about embracing your full self, including all parts that you're working through, and to break free from limiting beliefs and with clarity and love so that you can grow and evolve regardless of what is going on around you. And that is sort of the really neat thing for us. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about how to reclaim your power and use your authentic voice. So, Paula, I would love for you to introduce yourself and tell us what your current mission is.
Oh. So I am an intuitive sound healer. I'm a spirituality mentor, and my mission is to help women to uncover the parts of themselves that have been hidden, that have all the limiting beliefs, the conditioned beliefs, everything that society told you you're supposed to be. Help them dig up through that, release it, return it to sender so that they can reclaim who they were designed to be. Because so many times it gets lost. It really, really gets lost inside of us because we take this information from here, this information from here, this information from here, and it swirls around in our head. And that starts from the time that we're born and it continues throughout our lives until we realize that there's a yearning inside of us of something that wants to get out that's more authentically us. But we don't know how to find it now.
And why would you say, and I kind of agree with you on that, why would you say that we don't know how to find it? What has covered it up or buried it all of these years?
Because we've been told that maybe the way we think, the way we speak, the way we act is not acceptable in all the different places that we show up. Maybe we were told that this is the definition of a good girl, or the good wife, or the good mother, or the good teacher, or the good co-worker, the good friend. This is the definition. This is the box that you have to
Mm,
fit into. And anything outside of that can't exist. And so we may have been told that, we may have been shown that, may have watched that modeling, and it may have been insinuated in so many different ways in our lives. And when we're younger, we really looked up to the adults in our lives because it's what we had. And so we took
yeah.
all of their beliefs, and they were just doing what was best for us and telling us what they knew because of
Hmm.
how they grew up. And so we take it, we internalize it, and more and more and more, the real us gets buried underneath all those stories. And when it starts to come up, we get signaled, no, 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 you better put that back down. You're too much. You're too loud. You're too this. You're too that, right? And so
Hmm.
we just put it away in the back of the closet, at the bottom of the chest, wherever it is that we're storing it. And once we get all the other layers, we don't remember how to get to the bottom.
Mm, yeah. And I love how you put that. It makes it so easy for people to see where they fit in that. And when you talk about these boxes, I know that I did not realize that I was living in a box or I was like following the leader.
Hmm.
Um, until I was in my 30s is when I first started realizing it. But I was so busy then with my family and my career and all that stuff that it just laid there open and raw. And I didn't really deal with it until much later in life. Because I was busy and I made excuses, and I felt like everything else that I was doing, my other responsibilities were more important. There you go. That's another box
Mm-hmm.
that we get ourselves in. So, and I know that you have had some experience with that too. And you mentioned that years of dimming your light and staying silent. Tell us a little bit about that.
So when I was in junior high, and I know I'm not alone in this, I know a lot of people have experienced this. I was bullied mercilessly for 3 years
Mm,
in sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. I was told in so many ways that I was unacceptable, that what I had to say was stupid, or, just the mean things that girls say to each other. But when you're a sensitive soul, um, and it was at a time when nobody believed that girls were bullies, because bullies were the boys who scared you and beat you
mm,
up. They
mhm,
weren't the girls that taunted you, the girls that told you you would never fit in, right? So I dimmed my light and I found ways to hide, to shrink, to
mm,
fit in, and to become part of the thing, like to become part of, for lack of a better word, the matrix of it all. And so that I would blend in and I wouldn't be noticed. Of course, when I was being bullied, I guess I was lucky at that time. We didn't have the internet.
mm,
I'm over
mhm,
50. We didn't have the internet. And so when I went home, my mom owned that phone on the wall. We had one phone, it was on the wall with a cord. And so I was protected. I didn't have, no, I didn't have this where people could get to me.
mhm,
And so that was my only safe haven. And so I
mm,
dimmed myself down and I did not speak my truth and I did not share my opinion if it differed from anybody else's opinion for years because of it.
mm. Wow. And uh, it sounds like, in a way, you were being a people pleaser.
Ah,
And a word that you had mentioned before when we were gathering our notes here, a chameleon.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I was.
And
If you look in the dictionary under people pleaser, my name and picture were there. It said,
yeah,
see Paula, because I was the very definition of it.
yeah. Mm. And so, when did you start? And I'd like for you to give us maybe a couple of tips too. When
Okay.
did you start realizing that these patterns were real, that it wasn't just because you are, you are who you are, and there's nothing you can do about it? When you realized that there were things that were kind of holding you back or conditioning what you did, how did you approach that?
Um, it's interesting because it took me a really long time
Mm,
because I didn't know how to deal with all of the trauma. I didn't have the tools. And I mean, I had become a Reiki master like in 2013. But I only did it for close friends and family because I couldn't tell people because, oh my gosh, there were so many
mhm,
places I was a part of that saw that as, evil and dark and all of that. So I never even told people about that. But then I was a high school English teacher and I was in a really bad car accident and that was taken from me because I could no longer read for more than 25 minutes after the car accident because of
mm.
the way it affected my brain and my eyesight. And so here I am at 50 years old,
50.
years old, and realizing that I now have to figure out who I am outside of all of that, and I have to reinvent myself. And you know how they say when the student is ready, the teacher will enter? It
Hmm.
is so true. all of a sudden I started having these people and these coaches and these energy healers come into my field of vision and help me to get through the conditioning and the trauma. And as I'm peeling back layers and unearthing parts of myself, I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember that part. I remember that part of me that was adventurous, that liked to have fun, that was
Mm,
curious,
mhm,
that was kind of wild. I remember that part of me that wanted to create things. I remember that part of me that wasn't afraid to trust my intuition until I was told that trusting the inner voice might not be a real thing. And I started to look at all of the organizations I was a part of, and all of a sudden I started seeing all those with new eyes. And I started saying, "Oh, that can't be the whole truth. There's something missing there's a missing piece of that story." And I started to
mm,
look for the missing pieces of that story. And I went from the good little Catholic girl that followed all the rules and did all the things to becoming a priestess.
mm.
Um,
That was a big step.
it was a huge step. And you know what? It's the step that opened up so many doors for me. And when I wake up in the morning now, I'm excited to get out there, to see who I'm serving to that day, to see what I'm doing, to see what's in store. Do I have bad days? Pfft, absolutely. We all have bad days. But I always see the light instead of the darkness.
Hmm. And that makes a big difference,
Hmm.
because I think we are often in the shadow a lot,
Mm.
when we are doing the things, external things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of can really dampen our view on life, in a way over time. And it's interesting to me that so many people that I have talked with and worked with over the last few years, it was either a major health crisis or an accident, like you talked about,
Yeah.
something major that just stopped them in their tracks,
Hmm.
and they had to reinvent themselves, or what I like to say, just dig in and find
Hmm.
who was in there the whole time,
Yeah.
but was covered up, like you said, with all the dirt and stuff that gets piled on us over the years. And even people, and I understand when you talked about your religious background, and that maybe what you are doing now was a big leap from what was probably traditionally accepted and things. I've done the same thing. I've opened my eyes to a lot of other modalities
Hmm.
that we use all the time, but if you put a name on it, all of a sudden people get, all woo-woo about it.
It's good.
And I've learned, how to embrace that for myself, and to really just know that deep down inside, whatever ministers to me
Hmm.
is how it's going to is how I'm going to be able to take care of myself, and in turn share with others. And so you are a healer,
Hmm.
and you have these practices that you utilize that are rooted in ancient wisdom.
Hmm.
And so I want you to share for just a couple minutes. How do you guide your clients to break free from all of that generational patterns, that dirt that gets put on us, and rediscover their authentic selves?
Okay. So there is a lot. There are a lot of different ways. I highly, truly believe in journaling. Um, I
Hmm.
think that the right journaling prompt, coupled with some good meditation, whether you're listening to frequency music or a guided meditation, allowing yourself to really drop in to you and to tune out all the outside noise. And I tell people when you're listening to something, put on headphones so you're really drowning out the noise and you're in your own little world. And ask yourself the question. And then put pen to paper. Don't think, just write. Now,
Mm,
this was a hard practice for me because I was an English teacher. So I always thought before I wrote because I had to have an outline. So soul writing is what I call it, means that you just pick up your pen, you start writing, and you look at it when you're done, and you see what spirit is saying, you see what it spirit wants you to hear.
hmm
I also believe that one of the ancient practices of energy healing through Reiki or integrative energy therapies is a great way to relax, to unwind, and to allow your body to heal itself. Our bodies were designed to do that, but so many environmental factors and all the other stuff that we put into our bodies fights against that. And then it can't heal. Or we're given medications for one thing that end up hurting another part of us. And so allowing ourselves to just be and a practitioner that helps you is there to help relax you so that and to channel so that your energy can go where it needs to go most. Because so many times, and you do these things too. So tell me if you agree with me. We go in expecting that this is what I need to heal. And then when we get in there, we realize that there was something else that needed to be healed
mm,
that takes over. And then all of a sudden, once we get to the root of that, everything else starts to get better
yeah.
because spirit always knows better than us. And then, of course, I mean, I have one of my toys with me, which is my Koshi chime, but they have proven scientifically, and I love this, when science proves what I do,
hmm
that sound and frequency, like they did scans of people's brains and they saw all the gray matter. And then they did sound and frequency and they watched people's brains light up in that gray matter. So
hmm
sound and frequency goes to another part. And think about it, we identify with music. When we work out, we're not listening to lullabies. We're listening to hard hammering music to keep us going. When we're sad, we listen to certain songs. When we're nostalgic, we listen to certain songs. Music takes us on a journey.
Yes, yeah. And music slows down your heart. It lowers your blood pressure.
It does.
It reduces those stress hormones, and like you said, it can really improve your cognitive function. And people, I know like I said, we utilize these modalities
Mhm.
every single day of our life. And people put different names on it, and that's where people get scared, or they think there's something going on there. But I love how you mentioned the scientific link, and it's important to me as an educator. Everything is based in science.
Right.
Um, and same thing with writing, um, and writing things on paper. And
Yes.
I feel like, and you mentioned that healing, and you think this is what you need, or this is what's wrong. But sometimes when you write it out, all of a sudden it reduces all of the chatter that's been going on around you, and all that you've told yourself is what's going on around you, to where you really are able to get it out, and it's just an outlet for you to express yourself, and then things come out that you had maybe not even thought was the problem.
Yes.
And it just really, I believe, what you said, music, writing, those things really help us to understand ourselves and to become more confident in what we do and how we feel and how we respond to things.
And then another thing that I love to do with my clients is I love to help them get into their voice, whether that's through toning, just hearing a sound and saying that, producing that sound over and over again, or chanting their mantras. Like every morning, I have a mantra that I chant 108 times. Um, and I started by just chanting it, and now I sing it 108 times every morning.
Wow.
Yes, because when we use our vocal cords in that way, we help to get rid of that other stuff that closed them down,
Mm-hmm.
make them come alive. And getting back to the writing thing, and as a teacher, I used to tell my students this. They're like, can I just put my notes on my phone? I'm like, no, because science has proved that the physical activity of picking up the pen, putting it on the page, and writing opens up so much more. And we learn so
Mm-hmm.
much more. And I have a practice that I also teach my clients, and it's writing a love letter to yourself at the beginning or the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, it was so hard to do because we don't always love ourselves. Let's be honest, especially in the beginning of our journey. We don't love ourselves. And so it's hard to say those things, but being able to write a few sentences telling yourself the things you need to hear for that day, or allowing spirit to tell you the things you need to hear that day, are so healing.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's definitely all of those different modalities make a big difference. And I know when I ask you how you help your clients, you said, it's so vast. Um, but it is. We live in a vast world, and there's so many things that we can utilize if we slow down and take
Mhm,
the time to do it. And another thing that came to mind when you were talking is, slow down and write or listen to music, because I feel like for my own self, if I don't fill that space with something that I want it to be filled with,
mhm.
it is going to fill itself up.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have to be intentional.
Yeah.
There you can, we've been taught, and many people, idle hands are the devil's workshop. It's not.
Mm,
We're allowed to just sit and to just be in the nothing space, to not have the music on, to not have the TV on. When the uncomfortable feelings come up, don't do something else. Let them come up, let them be seen, acknowledge that they're there, because we can't heal what we don't feel.
there you go.
And if you are refusing to heal it, feel it, you can't let it go. And so in the future, when that comes up, you acknowledge it and you say, okay, why is that coming up? What's it trying to teach me? Got the lesson. Okay, I'm sending it back to where it came from, and I'm moving forward. So instead of having a week or a month where we're down from that feeling,
Hmm.
now we have just a couple of moments.
Yes. I love that you said that, because I feel like when you become really serious about self-expansion, about listening to that inner voice that you have, and the positivity that is within you, then you are able to do so much more than what you thought you were going to be able to do.
Yeah,
It's just reassuring. And when we do that, it just opens the door to a lot of positive emotions versus all of the other stuff that bombards us on a daily basis. Because let's face it, life is a lot of work.
it is.
And yeah, and we need to structure in those times and utilize frameworks, whatever the framework is that works for us,
Yes,
utilize those frameworks consistently. Um,
absolutely.
and and I know for myself, if I get in that harried mindset where I'm busy, 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 do, and all that stuff, I start to lose ground. I
Yeah,
can feel myself slipping.
yeah,
And I just need to sit down and listen. And it's what you just said a couple minutes ago. Let yourself feel it, because I think a lot of times we just cover everything up because and that's why we stay busy.
right, right.
Yeah. And that is a lesson I'm still learning.
And it's a hard lesson to unlearn. It's a very hard because society tells us that we have to be busy, that we can't sit idle, that we always have to be in the doing. And it's in the being that
Yeah.
we evolve into greater things. Um,
Yeah.
and like I was talking with somebody and they said to me, well, I thought why are you listening to that? I thought you already, did X, Y, and Z. I'm like, because you can't hear something too many times. And when you hear it from somebody else, it hits differently.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be the person, the way they are presenting it, that makes that little subtle shift that brings us into greater awareness. Because
Mm-hmm.
that's what we want to be. We want to be in awareness. When we stop being in the being and we're only in the doing, we are not in awareness.
Yeah. And that's interesting that you bring that up, because that's what we do in my coaching program as well. We talk about the elements of being,
Mm.
because we're human. We do human 24/7. We don't often do the being part. And maybe when you go to church or you do devotions or whatever, you tap into that a little. But there's just so much out there for us if we could tap into it more consistently.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Paula, for sharing your thoughts. It just, I don't know, it just warmed my heart to hear you say that and to be so passionate about it. And the people that are listening to this call or to the recording, can you tell them how they can get connected with you if they would like to learn more about you and your world?
Sure. So you can find me on Instagram at Serene Wellness with Paula. I'm on there all the time going live. You can find me at Paula Collins on Facebook. Um, I'm
Okay.
there. And for women, I have a private Facebook group called The Reclamation Awakening Your Soul. So you can find me there. And you can also find me at serenewellnesswithpaula.com. That's my website. Uh, and I would, I love people. I love to chat with people. I love to learn
Yeah.
about people. And I think that's why I love my work so much.
Well, thank you again for sharing your thoughts and what's on your heart. And we are going to say goodbye to everybody, and we'll probably put the links that she just talked about in the show notes. And so if you have any questions, just jot them down in the notes and we will get back with you. So thank you, everyone, and thank you, Paula, and we will say goodbye.
Bye. Thanks for having me on, Cindy. This was wonderful.